I added custom TNT to vanilla Minecraft using no mods. This data pack adds around 50 new TNT that do all sorts of unique explosions, and the download is in the video's description. Before diving into each TNT, let's take a look at some of the features shared by all of them. As you would expect, you can place them into the world as a block, and then ignite them, turning them into an entity. Once lit, they'll get a bit of random motion, and then as the fuse counts down, it flashes. And finally, right before exploding, it grows a bit. Oh, and the fuse timer is dynamic, so if it's lit by another TNT, it will be much shorter. So let's check out some explosions. Yeah, so there's a lot of TNT, and in my most recent update, I actually added 16 new ones, so that's these here. So we can start with those, and then we'll jump to the other 30. Alright, well to start off hot, we're going to go with the lava TNT. And this one explodes with lava everywhere. It will hit the ground and spread out a little bit, but then disappear after a short amount of time. But it can cause a lot of damage in a fairly big area. The fire TNT scorches the top layer of blocks, leaving a layer of destruction, and it also places random fires as it goes. So it doesn't leave fire everywhere, but it does just destroy the top layer and sometimes places some fire down. Firework TNT will create a fireworks show in and of itself, and it is rather pretty, and then when it detonates, it blows up into a whole bunch more fireworks. And you could of course have multiple of these and just set them off to create a big fireworks show of loud noises. So, big fan of this one. Killer Rabbit TNT, besides looking kinda cute, summons in a bunch of deadly killer rabbits. These guys will stick around for about 10 seconds and then will poof out of existence as to not litter the world with a bunch of highly dangerous mobs. So random TNT is probably my favorite TNT in the whole pack. When lit, it will switch textures between all of the TNT in the game and then detonate into just one of them. And so this could do literally any of the explosions that any of the TNT can do. So at that time, I think we might have gotten a meteor, or nope, we got killer rabbits. And yeah, this one's a ton of fun. Shooting star TNT makes a bunch of small meteors fall from the sky, and these will impact around where you detonated the TNT and cause fairly medium-sized explosions. So pretty damaging and wreaked havoc on the location. The TNT, besides being a good pun, throws a bunch of exploding trees that cause explosions, as you might guess. And it will always do 5 of them, picks random directions for them to be thrown in, and it also uses random tree models. So turns out I had modeled every tree in the game already, and so I kind of just used those to make a pretty silly TNT. Underwater TNT is incredibly simple, and it does exactly what you'd expect it to do. It works underwater. And this one I actually lifted just directly from Minecraft Education Edition, where there's a TNT that does literally exactly the same thing. Yeah, I just grabbed the texture for it and made it functional. Really simple, but pretty cool. Volcanic TNT is an upgraded version of the lava TNT. So it ends up throwing lava TNT in every direction that then obviously explode and do their own explosions. And so you can cover a massive area with lava temporarily and be really deadly to any mobs in the area. Log TNT destroys all logs and leaves in the area around it in a really large radius. So you can completely destroy a tree and get all of the logs from it. You'll see it leaves little axes behind. This one can be a ton of fun to use in like a dense forest or whatever. And yeah, I really like the visuals on this one. It is really loud, sorry about that. But yeah, you can clear out a lot of logs. Pretend that I have a tree farm and that I actually made something with it. You could use the log TNT and take out a good chunk of these. Don't think it's quite all of them, but yeah. And then you get mesmerized by the amount of axes that just show up for a little bit. And don't worry about lag on this. These are all item displays that disappear after just a short time, so not a huge lag impact. I did a bunch of testing with it. Should be pretty minimal. Repeating TNT does also exactly what the name implies. It will explode a handful of times. And it launches itself down every time it explodes, and so it ends up digging a little bit of a hole into the ground. Not super duper powerful on dirt, of course, but sorry, on stone, but on dirt, you'll see it, it tears through it pretty nicely. And yeah, just a bit more explosion for your TNT. Withering TNT is one of my very favorite that I made. This one explodes, and then it creates these little wither particle looking things that slowly eat through the world. And it expands for a little bit, and then will eventually die out very, very randomly. So these can go off in different directions, and it's just all random based, so you'll end up with some interesting lines, like this one just creating like a hole in that direction. And yeah, each explosion from this is going to look incredibly unique from all of the testing I did. There's still some that are just going and going and going, and this might go for a little bit longer even. So pretty cool TNT. Okay, you can stop now. Okay, you can stop. There we go. Trapped TNT is a rather unique concept. So this TNT, a couple seconds after being lit, goes into like a primed state, where if any entity approaches it, it will detonate. But it has a bit of a unique feature too, where it has basically two radiuses. One where if you get like really close to it, it will detonate, but also if you get like somewhat close to it and then you try to leave, I think I wasn't quite close enough. Yeah, you get like this close and now you try to leave, it will also detonate. So I wanted it to always explode when you get pretty close to it, essentially. So like you run right up to it, it's going to explode, right? But I also wanted to make it so if you get somewhat close to it and then you try to leave, it will also explode. That one probably wouldn't do that much damage to the player, but yeah, this would work for players, and it also would also be the case if like if a cow wanders too close to it, it will also explode and kill the mob. But not all TNT needs to be super destructive. Some can actually be of utility. So the farming TNT is one of those, where when you detonate it, it will actually just grow all of the crops in a large area around it. And yeah, you can fully grow most of your crops, and then it will eventually blow up and just be gone. And this would work on all of your crop types. It works on sugarcane and cactus and saplings and pretty much anything that you can grow, it should work on. Lightning TNT is rather cool. This one, when you detonate it, it will explode into some really loud lightning. You probably can't hear me over, but these will just strike randomly around it in a fairly random radius. And then last but not least of the new TNT that I added, we have walking TNT. This one's really unique. So when you place it down into the world, it will actually be placed higher up than you were aiming, and it has these cute little eyes on the front of it. And this TNT remembers the exact direction that you placed it in. So when you light it, it will actually just start walking in that direction. And so in this case, I was facing mostly north, mostly east. Yeah, northeast, whatever, same direction. And it will just walk that way, and after about 30 seconds it will blow up. You'll see that it can go up and down terrain, but if it were to run into a wall, it's going to explode. And if we try that again, this time I'm facing like a diagonal, and you'll see that it'll actually remember the direction that I was facing and walk in that diagonal. This time it's going to fall into this hole, but when it goes and it runs into a situation where it's going to fall into a hole, it ends up blowing up. And if this TNT ends up walking into a mob, it will also explode. So hopefully it hits one of these cows, or they're all going to expertly dodge it. And so when it hits one of them, it will blow up and kill all of them. So those were the 16 TNT that I added most recently, but let's take a look at some of the older TNT that were added in past updates. Because yeah, there's still 30 to look at. Kind of crazy. And fairly recently, I did actually go through all of these TNT and update them with some changes due to the new item display changes that allowed for some really cool additions to the data pack. With a good example of that being for like the amethyst TNT. This one will shoot out amethyst shards in every direction. And before, these were all armor stands wearing like an item on their head that looks like a shard. But I was able to replace these with item displays. So there's a lot better performance on this, like literally like 1,000 times better. And it also has a little bit better motion and rendering, and pretty much everything about it's better. Alright, so the impact TNT, this one, when you light it, as soon as it hits the ground or another block, it blows up. So it blows up really quickly. This one's not actually meant to be used by like a player lighting it. This one's meant for the TNT cannon, which I've already, I think, made a video on. If I haven't, I will be making that soon. But essentially, the TNT cannon can launch it, and when it hits blocks, this would instantly blow up. The Cow Boom, besides being one of my favorite named TNTs, this one will launch out exploding cows that can wander around for a little bit, and then after a couple seconds, explode. And I just like the concept. It's really stupid, and I love it. Laser TNT will face the direction that you are facing when you placed it, and then when you light it, it spins around, and if it finds a target it can shoot, it will zap it with a laser until it dies. Or until the target breaks line of sight with it. So if there were to be like a wall or something, and the target's behind the wall, you'll see that there it had the potential to shoot it, but it couldn't because there was a wall in the way. And then when it explodes at the end, it shoots a laser in every direction. I should probably show this one zapping the player, because I think that's going to be a little bit more clear for the breaking line of sight. You can see if I get behind the wall, I am safe. And if not, you die. Frost TNT, when detonated, will send out some frosty ice shards in every direction that slowly move across the surface of the ground and slow down the further they go. You'll see they can go up and down terrain, and when they hit a mob, it gets frozen in place for a short amount of time. Meteor TNT, as mentioned earlier, pulls down a meteor from the sky, and yeah, it's a single meteor that comes from a random direction and will slowly fall from the sky. And then when it hits the blocks, where it lands, it's actually going to pierce into the ground and go fairly deep down, causing a good like 10 explosions. As you can see there, it made a pretty deep crater. And then we have the two quite cursed TNTs. We have the wide TNT that will face the direction that you're facing. And then when this one blows up, you get a wide explosion. Kind of exactly what you'd expect. And then the tall TNT is a very similar story. It looks cursed in the opposite direction, and this one causes a very vertical explosion. So you'll see made a bit of a hole down and also up. Moving on, we have Anvil TNT, and this one will launch dangerous anvils up into the sky in a fairly small radius that will deal a lot of damage to anything under them. Inverted TNT will flip any mob near it upside down by naming it Dinner Bell. So yeah, you get a bunch of upside down mobs. Sword TNT is pretty similar to the Amethyst TNT that we mentioned earlier, but instead of amethyst shards, it instead shoots out swords. The difference is that for the Amethyst TNT, any mob that got hit by the amethyst shard would also get rid of that amethyst shard, where the swords can actually pierce through them. So that one single sword ended up hitting, I think, 3 or maybe 4 mobs there. TNT is a lot like TNT, but with more TNT to make it TNT. This one, when lit, its initial explosion, instead of exploding, launches out a bunch of TNT. And then these all explode into smaller explosions, but still world damaging explosions. They don't do a lot of damage to stone, but can tear up your dirt. But if that's not enough TNT for you with TNT, there's TNT. I think I said the right amount of them. This one is just ridiculous. It's, yeah, we took the same concept. This one, when it explodes, it shoots out a bunch of TNT, and then those shoot out a bunch of TNT, and then those explode into the whole carpeted area just gets destroyed. Magnetic TNT is a little bit silly. This one pulls all nearby mobs to it when it explodes. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on players, but you'll see, yeah, all of the mobs in the area got pulled to it. You can even chain these together if you wanted to pull all of the mobs to a location. Probably not super practical, but definitely kind of funny. Bee TNT summons a bunch of angry bees, and these will actually attack any nearby mob. So they will actually go for the cows, even though bees normally could never aggro on a cow. But basically how I made it work, they can aggro on anything, and then after about 10 seconds, they will disappear. Arrow TNT does exactly what you'd expect it to. This one just launches arrows in every direction, and it launches a lot of them. And they still all missed. But yeah, Arrow TNT just shoots out a bunch of arrows. They will despawn when they hit the ground as to avoid any lag too. So this TNT has a tunnel uses because it is a tunnel TNT. So this one will face the direction that you are facing when you place it, and then after a short time after lighting it, it will go off in the direction and it will mine for you, breaking all the blocks, and also place some torches as it goes. If it encounters like a gap, like this one here, it will actually build a bit of a path for itself to go over it and continue drilling at this height, as you can see here. And so this TNT can be useful for all sorts of stuff. You could obviously use it for mining, but you could also use it just to like flatten an area that you want flattened to a certain height. It's a pretty good one. All right, moving on, we have the poison TNT. This one I think would actually be better on a stone surface. This one, when you detonate it, will blow up into a whole bunch of poison lingering potions that will just coat the entire area with obviously poison damaging potions of death. And yeah, pretty big radius that it covers. Sponge TNT does exactly what you'd expect it to do. When you detonate it, it will clear out all of the water in a fairly large radius around it. So this one's pretty good if you were wanting to clear out water from an area. Slime TNT will launch all nearby mobs up into the air, and then they'll take a lot of fall damage. Potato TNT, we actually already saw in this video, but when detonated it will turn a lot of the area into potatoes. Pickaxe TNT will shoot out a bunch of pickaxes in every direction that will mine a 3x3x3 area of blocks. And yeah, it leaves this really funky pattern. And this one could be quite useful in caves or whatnot to just mine a whole area. I have made a couple videos of this, and it's just really satisfying to watch for sure. Definitely clears out a lot of blocks. Dripstone TNT is basically a budget version of the Anvil TNT. It doesn't do as much damage, and it also has a smaller radius that it covers by a lot. But when it does hit, it can typically do some pretty good damage. Not necessarily going to kill things, but pretty good damage. Directional TNT, when placed, will have a little arrow showing you the direction that it's going to explode in, and when you detonate it, it will cause an explosion in that direction. Who would have thought? Well, 6 more TNT to go. We have the Cactus TNT. And this one, when detonated, will throw out a whole bunch of little cactus thorns in every direction that will deal some damage and also poison anything hit by them. So covers a pretty big radius, as you can see, and a lot of mobs ended up getting, I guess it's actually wither damage, so they ended up all dying from it. The power of the sun TNT in the palm of my hand. Okay, yeah, so sun TNT is pretty cool. It will launch a sun up into the sky, like so. And then this will spin around and shoot out different exploding sun rays of death and doom and destruction in pretty random directions. My potatoes, no! And yeah, this will last for a rather long time and then eventually will poof out of existence. And yeah, you'll just be left with a whole lot of fire and flames and death and destruction. Just how I like it. Potion TNT, besides looking really cool, will send out a bunch of rainbowy particles that go in like a really unique pattern, and mobs that they hit will get hit with a bunch of random potions effects. So we didn't really see too many of them. You can see that they are hit with some potions. The most obvious ones when they get hit are stuff like levitation or invisibility or like obviously like instant damage or poisons or whatever, but there's a glowing, as you can see. It can give them literally any effect, but it only gives a couple at a time. It doesn't just like dump all of the potions on them. All right, and then next up we have Rocket TNT, and we have plenty of volunteers to show off this one. So Rocket TNT will launch rockets up into the air that will then find a target and come back down and detonate on the target, causing really big explosions. And they will search for a target in a really large radius. So you can see that mobs way over there were even getting targeted. Let's follow one missile here. That one went over there. We have over here. As you can see, they're very much so targeting mobs. And this one's incredibly dangerous. Okay, so I got rid of all of the cows in the area, so now it won't actually have anything to target, and in that situation, it's just going to have the missiles all fly randomly. It's just going to pick a random direction, and they will go flying down and just cause some chaos and destruction in that area instead. Oh boy, I'm running out of not destroyed landscapes to actually test these on, but next we have the Acid TNT, and this one is rather simple. It just throws some potions up into the air, but then these aren't any normal potions. They're going to explode into these lime particles that will slowly eat their way down into the world. And they can go fairly deep. It's like 10 to 15 blocks. And finally, last and probably least, we have Fake TNT. This one looks normal and sounds normal, but it doesn't cause any world damage or regular damage. So the fake TNT is pretty much perfect for pranking your friends, especially if you want to like place a couple of these in their base and light them. They're going to be freaked out and probably really mad at you, and then they realize, nah, they're actually just fake TNT. No harm actually done. So you can pretend to blow up your friend's base without actually blowing it up, which is, from my understanding, a better way to keep your friends than to actually blow up their bases. So. But yeah, those were the 48, I think, TNT that I added to this data pack. Kind of crazy to have more TNT than can fit in your entire inventory. And I hope you liked them. So if you did, make sure to leave a like on the video and hit that subscribe button to not miss out on future updates to obviously this data pack, but also other ones that I make in the future as well. And I'll see you guys all in the very next video. So thanks for watching and have a good one.